So it is no surprise that when people come online and they start training themselves on manifestation, particularly training themselves on law of assumption style manifestation, they accidentally pick up some more wounded ways to interpret their reality, interpret themselves. And it is my job here as a manifestation coach to really address those things. So today, I want to talk about one particular bad habit that I see a lot, and I'm going to give you a new tool on how to address this. And what is this bad habit I see a lot? It's the habit of whenever anything goes bad in your 3D reality, or whenever something happens that is a little unexpected, it is not what you initially wanted, whenever something happens that is just not what you thought you wanted to happen right in that moment, you tend to beat yourself up. Somehow, weirdly, the law of assumption taught you to internalize, oh my God, because that thing didn't happen perfectly the way my ego thought it would happen in this moment, that must mean that I did something wrong. What did I do wrong to cause that to happen? And guess what? You internalizing things that you see around you as negative and therefore you cause them, it is only making your self-concept worse. It is just perpetuating negative momentum with the things you're trying to manifest. So we have to have a completely different approach, a completely different perspective on dealing with temporary things that are happening in your reality that aren't exactly the way that you thought that they would happen. So we're gonna get into this today. You're gonna feel lighter after this. You're gonna have a lot more trust in Big G God, in the universe conspiring in your favor after this video, because it is. The universe is always conspiring in your favor, no matter what. And I really want you to trust that. Again, no matter what you see temporarily kind of flashing around in the 3D reality. So we're gonna get into it, but before we do, I will quickly introduce myself to any of you who maybe you don't know me yet. You're just randomly discovering me for the first time right now. My name is Genevieve, and I'm a manifestation coach and an energy worker. And on this channel, I really want to help you to manifest healthfully and therefore more effectively. We're doing things in a psychologically healthy way, but also a metaphysically healthy and accurate way. So if you like my style of coaching here, if you want to work with me more, there's all the links are down below for all the different ways you can do that. There's courses. You can book a private session with me if you want to go deep into your personal stuff with me. You can join the membership portion of this channel. There's just lots of things down there. So check all of that out. Oh, and if you get value out of this video, which I know that you are, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, let's get into this. So I want to share with you a little bit of personal information about me. I legit went to like a Harry Potter psychic energy working school like 10 years ago in 2015. Like I actually did a year-long program, very intensive, where I learned how to be psychic, I learned how to be intuitive, I learned how to read energy, and I also learned how to manifest. But this particular school's way of teaching manifestation was a little bit more law of attraction-y. They didn't have like a word for it, they just called it manifesting, but it definitely wasn't law of assumption in the way we've seen it kind of be created online in the last 3 to 5 years. But I say that the original way I learned it 10 years ago is more law of attraction-y, because it was a little bit more open-ended, I guess, although we were taught to be very specific, but it was really hammered into us to not have expectation and to release control over the how and when things happen. Unlike a lot of modern law of assumptions speak online, where some fragmented circles of law of assumption, because truly it's like there's circles within circles of like different avenues law of assumption teachings are going. It's so fascinating to see because it's no longer just Neville. And a lot of people are even contributing things to Neville Goddard that he never said. There's also a ton of AI Neville Goddard online now. You gotta be careful. But law of assumption, yes, it started with Neville Goddard making up that term and talking about manifestation in his way, which was taught to him by his teacher, Abdullah. What we see now online with what the internet has kind of done to the law of assumption last 5 years is different. Not to say that it's ineffective, because even the way I teach is not 100% aligned with the original Neville Goddard teachings. But all of this is to say that there's lots of like fragmented avenues, and everyone says they're teaching law of assumption, but really everyone just sort of has their own nuanced interpretation of that. And anyway, I am on a rant to say that some people teaching law of assumption teach it in this kind of very egoistic way that makes you feel like you should be in charge of controlling every little 3D thing that happens on your bridge of incidents to get you your final manifestation. It's like the law is accidentally taught to you in this way that makes you feel overly responsible for the 3D. It actually makes you almost more faithless than faithful in the law, because you just feel so overly responsible, as if you are big G God who has to make sure everything goes perfectly, and if it doesn't go perfectly, you feel like you messed up. I really don't personally like that interpretation of law of assumption, because it's never been the way I've seen healthy manifestations take place. It's also never been good for anyone's mental health. When you're a conscious manifester, it feels good to be surrendered. It feels good to trust that everything is truly working in your favor, no matter what's happening. Even if a temporary weird thing happens that you don't like, it feels so good to just be able to look at that weird thing that just happened and just be leaned back about it and be like, well, I don't know what's up with that, but I still know everything's working in my favor. And it just feels really bad to have to walk through life and look at something and be like, oh my God, I didn't think that would happen. What did I do wrong to cause that to happen? So we have to let go of that habit. So now after that whole thing, let me go back to what I was saying about my Harry Potter school program that I did about 10 years ago now. So as I said, that's where I originally learned about manifesting. At the same time that I was learning how to be psychic, as I've talked about before, being able to objectively read energy and pick up on the momentum of the current energy happening around you can help you manifest, because the more you can see energy objectively and clearly, you know how to appropriately sort of adjust your intentions with the energy to help it manifest in a different way. But again, that's also not, I'm on so many tangents here today. I know all of them are helpful, but the main thing I want to say about what I learned about manifesting in my school program 10 years ago, what was so drilled into me is that if anything happened in my reality that looked like I wasn't getting what I wanted, or looked like I was losing out on something, or just looked like, something bad in any way, shape, or form, it was really drilled into me that when something bad, quote unquote, happened to me, to instantly have the reaction of, oh, well, I guess that wasn't for my best and highest good. Like if something temporarily falls apart, like my car breaks down one day, or I get the flu, or I meet a new person I'm excited about, but then that person ends up kind of not being a thing, and then nothing happens between us. Like if anything happened that was bad, it just became so second nature to me to look at it and be like, oh, I guess that just wasn't for my highest good. Like with the car example, if my car broke down that day, I would think, oh, I guess it wasn't for my highest good that I would get to work easily today. It must be for my highest good that I needed my car to break down today, because if it wasn't for my highest good that my car broke down today, then it wouldn't have happened. The same thing with the example of getting sick. Like if I got sick, I would immediately think, oh, it must be for my highest good that I got sick. I must have needed this in some ways. I must have needed this to slow down or to get more rest. Like I would always interpret everything as, oh, this must have happened because it's for my highest good. Or if a person left my life, it was like, oh, well, I guess that was for my highest good that they left. Just in general, if something didn't work out, I would assume, well, it must have not have been for my highest good. And the thing that did happen, it must have been for my highest good. I hope that makes sense, because here is what happened to me after I learned specifically of law of assumption several years ago, after I'd already learned of just like the general manifestation that I was taught. When I learned of law of assumption and heard these same interpretations that you guys hear a lot, I lost that really surrendered detachment about things happening or not happening for my highest good. I started to feel overly responsible, because we're taught in law of assumption, like, be super specific, and if it doesn't work out exactly the way you were specifying, well, then you must have done something wrong. So I took on that really flawed identity for a while when I first was learning about law of assumption, that thing of, oh my God, well, that didn't happen the way that I was affirming it to happen. I was affirming that my car was gonna run really well today, and then I would get to work on time today. So why would my car break down? Am I being punished? Or I must have done something wrong. I go on Reddit and figure out, what did I do wrong that would cause my car to break down today? Something must be wrong with me. It's like I would over-focus on anything that happened that wasn't perfect proof that, oh, I'm an amazing manifestor, things work out for me all the time, everything's so easy, everything just lines up for me. I was starting to judge my reality, and this is exactly what I see in so many of you as well. And it sucks, because especially as I've talked about before on this channel, when I first learned of law of assumption specifically, my life actually got worse in that first year of learning of law of assumption, because I got so caught up in fearing my thoughts, in over ascribing meaning to negative things happening to me. It's like I lost this really cool surrender that I had before, where if something didn't happen exactly the way I thought it should happen, I could easily let it go before learning of law of assumption. But after I learned of law of assumption and I heard, the language that we use in law of assumption, like you're the God of your reality and you're the operant power and everything happens because of you. So if something doesn't happen, well, then you must have messed it up. I heard that language and I internalized it in such a negative way that of course things got worse. But now that I've come a long way from my first year of learning law of assumption, making all the mistakes, and then realizing I really wanted to become a coach because I knew other people were struggling with law of assumption like I was back at that time. And this was like 4 years ago, probably. But at that time, nobody was talking about law of assumption in the more healthy ways. I do see other people healthfully talking about law of assumption now. Back then, it was very egoic, way more egoic than it is now. At least I think so. I don't see all the other law of assumption content out there anymore. I don't really follow other coaches or anything. And I'm sure there probably is some toxic, weird stuff out there still. But I do know there's also a lot of good stuff out there. So anyway, I am saying this because now I've come full circle, because law of assumption is real. But when you're practicing the law of assumption, you have to remain very surrendered along the bridge of incidents. You cannot fall into the habit of judging every little thing that happens of like, oh no, I wasn't expecting that and that seems kind of bad. Like I must be doing something wrong because I don't think that was supposed to happen. Instead, let's go back to the phrase I used to be very good with before I discovered law of assumption. Let's integrate that back into our manifestation practice. And if something temporary on your bridge of incidents happens that seems bad at first glance, like your car breaks down or you have a conversation that goes really badly, not the way you thought that conversation would go, there's a million different things that this could take the form of. But when something happens that is not what your ego thought would happen or wanted to happen, when something like that happens, you simply have to say to yourself the phrase, well, I guess this was for my best and highest good. Or, depending on the context, I guess this wasn't for my best and highest good at this moment. That doesn't mean that your manifestation isn't still happening. You're still being specific about your end. What I'm saying in this video is you're dropping all of this control, insecure, freaking out you're doing about every little thing that pops up in your 3D along the way to your end. You're trusting that the end is still the end. The end is still happening. You're still getting what you want. You still are the person you claim to be. You still are amazing. You have done nothing wrong. God has got you no matter what. The universe has got you no matter what. You are never being punished by God or by anything. You've decided who you are. You've set your intentions and you practice your focus and intentions. And then when it comes to you living in this 3D world, you just have to be very accepting and surrendered to whatever happens. And so this little trick of reminding yourself, oh, this weird thing that just happened, no, I didn't do anything wrong. That's not a threat to me. That only happened because it must be for my highest good that happened. Even if right now it's totally confusing to me, I don't have the big G God perspective to know why that happened the way it did today. My ego can't really fathom why it happened the way it did today, but I know I'm tapping into my deeper, deeper trust that nothing happens against me. And so even temporary bad things are always happening for my highest good, no matter what. Even things that seem like an inconvenience, even things that are temporarily maybe a little bit painful or a little bit confusing, doesn't matter. Let the ego go. We're not judging it. We're not internalizing, oh, I must have done something wrong because that happened and I don't know why that happened. We're not doing that. We're simply every day now reminding ourselves, whatever happens today, it's happening because it's for my best and highest good. It is my path of least resistance to get me to my end. And sometimes the path of least resistance involves weird things happening. That's just the way life is, because this 3D world is dense and based on polarities and dualities. So when one thing is coming into creation, often other things have to fall apart. Even with specific people, let's say you're manifesting an SP and things are temporarily getting worse between you. This is just an example, and this could be a lot of different things too for different people. But let's say in this example, things are temporarily getting worse. Well, that old version of them, you don't want that old version of them. Let that person go. Let that person go and trust that they're gonna come back. It is your best and highest good that they come back as a different version and you let the old one go. It is for your best and highest good that that old thing falls apart and falls away. Don't see it as a bad thing, that you did something wrong. That's the biggest thing. Like, I really just want you guys to stop being so hard on yourselves that whenever anything goes wrong, or at least you're perceiving it as going wrong, you instantly start to really beat yourself up, or you get really insecure and really fearful and doubtful, and you have to just let that go. Let go of that version of you that feels like you must be in control all the time and that you can't handle anything that's not exactly what you thought would happen, and you can't handle negative things happening and you're just gonna freak out. Like you gotta let that really insecure version of you go. Everything, and I really mean everything, is happening for your best and highest good. The one last thing I want to say about this is that there is a difference between scientifically reverse engineering something to see, like if you got a negative result, for example, and you can just reverse engineer, okay, this was a weird result. Can I just, in a very objective, not self-shaming way, kind of look back to see, is there something in my energy or in my mindset that would have caused this thing to happen? That's very different than freaking out whenever something bad happens. So I just want to throw that in there because sometimes there is some self-reflection needed. Like if you're seeing the same pattern continue to play out very heavily over and over again, that's a great time to see it. It's like, okay, this thing keeps happening and it doesn't seem to be changing. This isn't just like a one-time random thing falling apart that's happening for my best and highest good. This is like a repeated pattern over and over and over again. That is a time to do some self-inventory work and look at, okay, there is still something in me that I'm carrying that's affecting this. But when you're doing this kind of like reverse engineering, kind of looking at yourself objectively, that's really, really different than self-shaming and asking yourself, oh my God, what did I do wrong to cause this? Two very different energies. Most of the time throughout your day, when random stuff happens that is like, whoa, that was weird, don't know what's happening there, was not expecting that. That is the moment that you are simply going to acknowledge, this must be for my best and highest good. I really want you to train that phrase in whatever way works best for you, whatever wording works best for you, into your mindset, into your mental diet, so that you no longer allow yourself to go into total lack of trust, total lack of faith in the process, and go into that ego like, oh my God, I must have done something wrong. Why would this happen? Everything is happening for your best and highest good, no matter what, even the weird stuff, even the weird patterns that keep playing out. The pattern keeps playing out so that you can finally look at it a different way. It's trying to get your attention. So if you need to do the reverse engineering and look at, okay, why does this keep happening? You can finally do it in a neutral, objective way where you're just going to make a scientific energy adjustment and not keep internalizing it as, oh my God, I can't handle this. Why does this keep happening? We got to get away from that kind of thinking. Okay, this is what I have for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts and comments down in the comments below. Let me know what questions you have or just what's coming up for you after watching this video. If I get a question that feels like something that a lot of people need to know, I'll make another video about your question. So let me know, and I will see you guys in my next video. All right.